How's it going, Jess?
Going well.
Thank you for taking the time to be on my web series here called Breaking Bread. For those of you who don't
Absolutely.
know and who haven't had the pleasure of meeting Jess, she's a sports partner manager over at YouTube Sports and a proud Michigan alum.
Mm-hmm.
And really, really looking forward to you guys listening to our conversation here. So let's kick it off with you're born and raised in Cleveland. But where did the swag come from? I know it's not a Midwest thing. And what was it like, growing up in Cleveland as well?
Yeah, well, I'll start out by saying Cleveland can make some cool people, so don't shed darkness on my city. There's not a lot that happens in Cleveland, so you have to have a fun personality, otherwise you'll just be bored all the time.
Makes sense,
But
makes
no,
sense.
more seriously though, honestly, I think my parents have a lot to do with it. My parents are very open and just like wanted us to have as many experiences as possible with different kinds of people, different situations. And I think as I've been able to age and have different experiences and meet people with different minds, different thoughts, different backgrounds,
Yeah.
it just opens yourself to all these cool experiences, which then in return have an effect on me and whoever. So I think it starts with how my parents lived their life and how they encouraged us to live ours.
That's dope. And you said us. You have siblings as well?
Oh yeah, I'm one of five.
One of
I've got a big
five.
family.
Y'all had a starting five. That's dope. Are
We
you the
did.
youngest, oldest, or
Oh no, I'm classic middle child to the bone.
what does a
I've got
classic middle child mean?
uh, it means that I hate being alone. I need plans all the time because I was surrounded by people my whole life. And I'm constantly seeking validation because my parents had too many people to think about. So they forgot about me often in a loving way, but they did.
Well, the validation is here. You're at YouTube, and I know you're
Thank
gonna be
you.
headed to Spotify here in a few weeks. So like,
Yeah.
you're fired, man. You got it.
Oh, thanks.
I gotta
Appreciate
ask,
that.
so you grew up in Cleveland, and then like, why Michigan? Why not? I guess Ohio State or somewhere else.
It's a common question. Well, Cleveland's actually equidistant between Columbus and Ann Arbor. So yes, we have Ohio State rooted in our blood, but they're not. They're both pretty close to home, and I wanted to be away from home, but enough of a driving distance that it was easy to get into a car. I was really hoping for like the Big Ten or some sort of sports atmosphere of a school. And academically, I think Michigan had what I was looking for and what I wanted to build in terms of like skill sets, knowledge. And then my older brother also went to Michigan. So that also opened the door for me to think about it. And then I visited, I found love, and the rest is history.
That's what's up. Go blue.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and what were you able to like tap into while you were at Michigan?
Oh yeah, a lot of different things. So I was one of those a cappella students. I did a cappella.
What? Let me find
Yeah.
out.
No Googling, no searching is not allowed. I did a cappella. I was involved in the Jewish community there. So I did some stuff with the Hillel and some of the other groups. I studied organizational studies, which was like a smaller cohort. So I got to get involved with some people there. And I went to as many sporting events as I possibly could because what better time to do that than as a student at Michigan?
Yeah, and it seems
Yeah.
like from our conversations, you have like a strong passion for sports. Was this like because you played sports growing up, or Michigan, or where did that come about?
Yeah, I this ties back to how I first started with Cleveland. Like there's just not a lot going on. So there's certain things that you have to like, otherwise your life's gonna be really boring. No, no, I realize I'm talking negatively about Cleveland, but I love that city so much. This is only in a positive way. But
Real Cleveland people realize they understand.
yeah, yeah, they get it. So you just grow up being around people that love sports in Cleveland, and there's not a lot of success. So you're kind of bonded by the pain that we all go through. And it's in our blood to like sports. So I started really from a young age. My parents were both, sports fans to a certain degree, and my dad would go to a bunch of games and he would take us. And then we started playing sports, not successfully, but I played a bunch of sports growing up. I'd say tennis was probably my best, but never truly successful. And then I played some basketball, I played lacrosse, I did all the different things, and then just loved the camaraderie of sports. I loved what it brought to my life, and I loved what it brought just watching other sports succeed. So started at a young age, and then it kind of just carried through. And I think the real pivotal moment was, we can talk about this later too, because you'll probably ask about it, but when I was working in HR, there were certain qualities about the role that I really liked, but then there were certain things that just weren't my passion or my hobbies, to, you know, talk about someone's compensation or figure out benefits. Like, that wasn't what I was researching all the time. And at that moment, I thought, well, is there a way that I could take some of the things I like in this role, but have it be in a field that I just love in and out of work, that I want to be spending my whole day in. So I thought about like entertainment, sports, like, is there a way where that could happen? And that kind of opened my eyes to a world in which I could actually work in sports.
That's fire. That's fire.
Yeah.
And kind of jump into that, like you have a really interesting path to YouTube Sports. I saw you worked at like a startup called Sport Talk. Then you did human capital at EY. And did some HR at Google as well. And then you made this crazy pivot into sports tech. So can you kind of dive deeper a little bit into like what brought about that path and like how did you go about doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the sports talk one was an internship. That was actually very random. I just knew, I forgot how I got connected to them. It was someone who was a Michigan alum, and I needed something to do. They at the time were a music company, so they shifted into sports later. So the time that I worked with them, I was doing a little bit of just intern support for both their music and their sports stuff. But after that, in college, I kind of was unsure about what I wanted to do. I was studying a lot of different things in organizational psychology. You kind of learn about all facets of a business. And so I took that to HR consulting right out of school. That was a pretty common path from my major. And I started there. Consulting's not for me and my lifestyle, but I learned a ton, and it was a really great first year into the working world because they teach you so many skills at a job like that. But I soon learned I needed something a little bit more stable, and I wanted to see if I could potentially take my HR consulting, but do it internally for a company and see how I felt about that. And as I was thinking through that, I was thinking about how could I do internal HR at not just a normal company, but a company that's, you know, making innovative changes, thinking more progressively, isn't necessarily rooted in deep hierarchy. And that took me to obviously the Googles and the tech companies of the world and thinking about that. And luckily I was able to then start doing internal HR business partner work at Google for about a year and a half. And I alluded to this earlier. I did it. It's probably like the most I've learned in that year and a half as a young 20-year-old in a pretty cool experience. But what I learned most prominently was the skills I really enjoyed with partnerships and providing client support and having to navigate through different questions that you don't necessarily know the answers and get people connected to the right teams or the right resources. And I did that in HR, but then I wanted to figure out how to do that in a field that I was more passionate about personally. So that took me over to YouTube, which at first I just did general entertainment, and I worked in partnerships. So that same sort of client service, getting people answers across all different entertainment verticals. And then after talking enough to my managers and my teammates, they probably wanted to kill me. I was allowed to have a sports portfolio. Finally, they let me work with some of our sports creators at first, and then eventually was able to get more into sports media companies and a little bit more digital content and strategic relationships and partnerships with some of our sports partners at YouTube. So roundabout, but there's some commonalities across all the roles.
No, that's awesome. And I have to like, for anybody who's trying to like pivot in their company, like how did you go about having those conversations and being able to pivot from like, again, from like doing like human resources to then the sports, like that's one of like the coolest gigs in sports tech. How did you go
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, I think for me, what's been really helpful is understanding what skill sets are important in all the roles and where they overlap. Because a
Mhm.
lot of what people do, regardless of the vertical or the industry that you're in, there are really similar skill sets that
Right.
you need to be good at or that you need to develop. And understanding how what I did with in HR was pretty similar to what I do now, just in a different field, really helped me have conversations, understand what I was looking for, and then market myself in a way that was desirable for whoever the hiring manager was at that next role.
Right.
So it seems like a big pivot, but if you think about it, what I was doing as a junior HRBP was partnerships for employees. I was helping them figure out what they needed to do to succeed as an employee in a different field. And that translates pretty well to partnerships at YouTube. It's just learning. Now I had to learn about YouTube, the platform, all these other things, and just use the skills I'd already developed to be smarter in a new space.
That's awesome. I wish I met you a few years ago, because you always look at these positions you're trying to apply for. They're like 5 years or 10 years of experience in this, and
Yeah.
you're always thinking, I don't have that experience. But then the more and more you realize that you're like, actually, you do. You just need to like be able to frame it in a different way. So that's really
Yeah.
cool.
That part's really tough. And I don't want to like trivialize that because I think that can be really hard to get past. It did help that Google and YouTube are internal. And so I was able to have conversations with people before roles even opened up just to understand what was going on. I think that also really helped. So it's a little bit of luck. It's a little bit of doing your homework and being motivated and understanding like where the overlap is. But yeah,
You shot your shot. So
I shot my shot.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Thanks.
So as like a sports partner manager, like what does partnerships really look like at a sports tech company?
So yeah, I can speak to the experience at YouTube specifically.
Yeah.
Essentially, what we do is we have a portfolio of different sports companies, creators, athletes, depending on where you fall. And our goal is to help them grow and develop their audience and continue to succeed on YouTube. And so that's a really broad answer, but we can really do anything that helps to that end goal. So part of it is understanding their channel and looking at channel analytics and data to help them strategize on series that are working or audience demos that they should be targeting. Thinking about thumbnails and titles and how to have those be a little bit more effective to bring higher clicks on their videos. Using community features to build personalities across their brands and with their fans so that there's more consistency in the viewership. So there's a lot of different tactics to take just from the content, the organic content standpoint.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, it's thinking about ways beyond just their content to help them succeed. So whether that's brand partnerships, collaborations, marketing support, helping them from a technical standpoint if they're having monetization issues or operation challenges and they need to talk to someone who's a specialist on our team, or thinking about live streaming. There's just so many buckets that these partners need to be thinking about to be successful on YouTube. And so we're the point person to get them where they need to go, really in any facet.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
YouTube is, yeah, for those of you who don't know, sports, like YouTube sports team is one of the most highly coveted sports tech gigs. And your client list is dope. I won't reveal them all, but I know you have a cool portfolio. And again, I appreciate you sharing a little bit like what it looks like. So like
Yeah.
what was like the coolest project you're able to share that you worked on?
Oh, that's a tough one. There's so many that are near and dear to my heart. I can speak to one that's happening right now though, which is probably most people who are listening to this are probably somewhat aware that there are now MLB live streams on YouTube, just a set of games. I think we got 21 this year that are exclusively live streaming on YouTube. They're called MLB Game of the Week. It's been a long partnership that's driven by so many people beyond me. I do very little in that actual partnership, but it's been a really successful cross-functional project that is there's actually a game that just ended streaming right now. You should check it out. This is a plug for MLB Game of the Week on YouTube. You should
Plug
watch
them
it.
in.
But the way that I kind of fit into that larger project is we have a creator live chat that happens in these streams. And the reason for that is we really want to create a YouTube experience for these MLB games, even though they're traditionally a baseball game with on-air broadcasters and in the same way that you would watch on your cable. We wanted to put in different layers that brought more YouTube-y feel to the live stream. And so part of that is having some of our top performing, or not necessarily top performing, but some of our higher engaging baseball creators participate in a live chat as the games are happening and provide feedback, insights, commentary, jokes. It's almost like just having a live feed of really knowledgeable and passionate baseball fans commenting as the games are happening. So I've been able to help out with that work streamline during these MLB streams and make sure that we're giving our creators love who are participating, we're giving our viewers a YouTube experience, and do something a little bit different and innovative on these MLB live streams. And it's been really fun to work on. I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but it's opened my eyes to a lot of really cool things about the sport and how passionate different people are about the sport. And yeah, for me, it's been really, really a great experience and one that I'll cherish forever, probably.
That's really cool. I'm not the biggest baseball fan, at least not until about like September, like August, September. I can't follow for that many games.
Yeah.
But I'm a big Yankees fan. So I will check out to see if any of those games are on YouTube live.
Absolutely.
And I love the integration you guys did with the NBA bubble as well. So you guys are definitely in the right places and the right spaces for sure.
Yeah. And we just announced, I mean, this is a Google thing, but this is one that I had no part in, but seeing it just as a Googler, I loved. We announced a partnership with the WNBA and what they're doing. And it was, I think, just announced yesterday. So everyone should check that out, because that makes me so happy that Google is helping just raise the WNBA voice and give them a platform and continue to help them grow, which they're doing already in incredible rates. So I'm really excited about that one too.
I love watching some WNBA games too, so I'm happy to hear
Same.
that. I'm happy to hear that. That's dope.
I had no part in it. I will just say that I did not work on it, but I'm
Sure.
just saying, I'm positive. I'm just saying, as a Google employee, it made me really happy to see.
That's fire. That's fire. So you've talked a little bit about the good stuff about your career, but would love to know, like, was there like what was like your most pivotal setback or maybe a comeback in your career thus far?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I think there's a lot of like smaller things that happen throughout that I could speak to. But if I'm thinking of one of the more substantial moments, I think it probably comes back to at a young stage in my life, where I was a junior in college or a senior in college, and I was applying to different roles. And right off the bat, I did want to try HR at Google, even before consulting. And I had applied to Google's HR rotational program. And I made it to first interview rounds and then kind of bombed the first interview and didn't get past it. And the recruiter called me and was like, it's not going to work out, but stay in touch, like all the things that they normally say. But I really took it to heart. I was like, she told me to stay in touch, I'm going to stay in touch. So I didn't get that, and I was devastated. And then that's what ended up forcing me, I guess, to take the consulting route and try that out for a year. And once I realized consulting wasn't for me, I thought about getting back in touch with the recruiter and making her remember who I was and that they rejected me initially. And then eventually got back in touch with her, and the timing worked out. They were hiring, and they liked that I had gotten experience first in consulting. And I think I was a little bit more skilled in talking about work and experiences at that point, which I credit to consulting. And that was then able to open doors later on for me to actually get hired by Google. But I was young, and it was a long time ago, so it's not something I focus on a lot. And I'm grateful they didn't hire me right out, because I do really appreciate that year of consulting. But that was probably my first setback just in the working world of having to do things that you don't expect and get rejection and then kind of figure out how to use it to your advantage.
Yeah, it really is how you respond. You not only are a sports fan, but it sounds like you're pretty damn competitive. And the
Yeah.
fact that
Yeah.
they rejected you, and you were like, "No, I'm gonna follow up with you until you let me in the door." So that's really cool.
She said keep in touch and I said okay.
But sometimes people
I
take it as like
will.
a pleasantry. You're like, "Oh no, you're gonna hear from me."
Yeah,
That's awesome.
exactly.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. So, as I mentioned earlier, like, so you're working at YouTube, and in a few weeks you'll be working at Spotify.
Mhm.
But with all that being said, like, what does success mean to you?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Um, I think there's a few different layers to that question. So, what it means to me, partially, is how happy I am on a day to day and how motivated I am on a day to day. So, if I'm in a role and it has not a crazy substantial impact at the time being, but I see the long-term goal, or I am feeling motivated on a day-to-day and I'm passionate about something and I'm happy truly in what I'm doing, that to me is success. Because I think thinking about like the in the moment day to day can sometimes drive longer term impact more so than thinking about how you can have a larger impact from the get-go. I'm kind of talking in circles here, but basically what I'm saying is I like to think about the present and the day to day and how I'm feeling right now and help that drive towards success in the long run, instead of thinking about, how can I achieve this really large mission at the end. So success to me is checking in with myself on a day to day and making sure that I am still motivated, that I am happy with what I'm doing, and that I'm having some sort of positive impact in the role that I have. And that's one answer.
Yeah.
The second part of it would be if I'm having a positive impact on the people around me too. So not only just for myself and for the role, but if what I'm doing translates into something good for people around me, I think that's another layer of success that I look for in my own day to day. Because if that's not the case, then what am I doing? I could be doing something that brings a ton of revenue to some sort of company, but if it's not having any sort of social positive impact on the world, then I don't know that I see that as fully successful.
That's awesome. I was not expecting that answer. I'm not sure what I was expecting, but I think that's really cool because the reason why I asked is because like you are now building up this resume of like all the top notch companies, and so you never know. Like it's always interesting to hear like somebody's version of success. Like doesn't mean just continue to work for the best of the best companies and get visibility and be in front facing and be the woman or whatever it may be. But I like the caveat about, does it have some type of impact? I think more and more people are trying to be more aware of that instead of just like that bottom line revenue. Like what am I doing to help the next person succeed as well? So I think that's really
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
So the last tough question I'm going to ask you is
Okay.
like, what do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is going to tie into what I was saying in the last answer too. Because for me, and I've gone my whole career to date thinking this way. I don't like thinking about like the dream goal or the dream job or the end and
Yeah,
where I see myself, because I'm not someone that has that long-term vision. I think I'm more someone that likes to plan as I go.
hmm,
And so I'm in a role, I see that there's certain things I really love. I see there's certain things I don't love as much. How can I do more of what I love? And how can I take that next step that's going to get me closer to whatever I've realized right now? And to me, as I take these steps, like that's going to get me to whatever legacy that I leave in this world. If I have to plan right now, like what my legacy will be, I just don't have enough of a sense to think that far out.
yeah,
So I like to take it kind of one job at a time, one step at a time, and just check back in with myself and make sure what I'm doing again makes me happy, motivates me, has some sort of positive impact on the people around me, and that is taking me closer to whatever that next step wants to be. So it's not really an answer to your question, but it's a
No, it
little
is.
bit of a pivot to share just how I think about my career progression and my day to day. And it's less about that end goal and more about what I'm doing to get me one step closer to being happier.
Yeah, no, you're pivoting like a true sports player.
Like
So I love it.
my year of consulting is coming out. My talking in circles, not really giving you the right answer.
No. It's not. There is no right answer to that. I think
Yeah.
what you say makes complete sense. I think a lot of people always thinking about the long term thing, but you seem to be very, very present. Um, I wonder if it comes from. I saw you do some yoga. I see you maybe have a lot of
I
self
do.
awareness, which I'm digging. I get it. I get it.
It's, I mean, it's taken time to get here, but yeah, I think yoga's definitely helped with that.
Yeah, I have to ask too. Like, what was it like, or what has it been like being a woman in tech? I know especially like the numbers speak for themselves in terms of like the lack of women in leadership at some of these major companies, and just curious. Well, I guess the CEO of YouTube is a woman, but I'm just curious
Yeah.
from you, like what has it been like throughout your career?
I would say up until entering the sports space, it wasn't that prevalent because a lot of the roles that I had been doing was surrounded by really incredible women who were all leaders in the field, like in HR, in just partnerships in general. And so I never really thought about it being a woman in tech, or how there were challenges there, or what negative effects that might provide in my day to day. It has been a little bit more present in the sports space, just because add another layer onto tech and sports, that's another thing where just women are less represented.
Mhm.
Um, I think I'm lucky, I'll start with, because I'm surrounded by mentors and people who are like the smartest people I've ever met. And they've just been able to guide me and give me the space to build confidence and build knowledge, so that when I come to a room, I feel like I can play with anyone who's in there. But it also takes a lot of effort. So I probably do a lot more work on research and making sure I know everything that's happening, so that I'm never in a position to not know the answer or come across like I didn't do my homework. And I think I have to do that a little bit more than maybe someone who's not a woman, or someone who's not someone who's underrepresented in the field. Because that one time you make a mistake, someone then says, see, this is why, or thinks that to themselves. So I think it does require myself and other women and other people of color and whoever to work harder and make sure that you're doing your due diligence to show up and be as capable as possible, which at times can be frustrating, but
Yeah.
I think it also makes me stronger and helps motivate me to show people who doubt me that, like you said, I'm competitive, show them that I know more than they know about some things. But no, just show up with confidence and do my job well, and build the respect.
I love that. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Everything you said is like completely on point.
Yeah.
As a as a woman, but then like it translates to people of color as well. That preparedness that we continue to have to show, but um, it's all valid, and I'm happy that it's resulted in you having some really dope opportunities. So I look forward to continuing to see your success for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump to the lightning round real quick.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna throw some curveballs at you.
Okay,
So on
I'll
Twitter,
try my best.
so on Twitter, it says that you're a fan of a playoff football team. So not my New York Jets.
Absolutely not. I am a diehard Browns fan, and we made it to the playoffs last year, and I will live forever in happiness just knowing that. But this year, just you wait. We're ready. We're coming back. We've got a defensive line that's about to kick people. I'm not going to swear on this. I don't know if you can.
You can, yeah, you can.
We've got
You
a
can.
defensive line that is phenomenal, and yes, everyone can just wait until the end of this season. We'll see what happens.
Brown's gonna whoop that ass. Okay, all right, we'll let that ride. Uh, if you could have a dinner party and invite anyone you'd like, who would you invite and why?
Hmm. How many people do I get to invite? Do I have a limit?
Let's make it a small dinner. So we'll say up to 3.
3. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go for, this is gonna be a women's only dinner just
Okay.
because I gotta support women. Um, and I'm going Doris Burke for sure, hands down. She's my first choice. I
Bomb.
want to know everything about that woman.
Bomb.
She's like one of my favorite people, probably my idol in terms of just like careers and people in general.
One of the best sports analysts too. Always is on point
Truly.
with her game. Seriously.
My second choice would be Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who I'm obsessed with. She is the writer and creator of Fleabag. She also
Oh, okay.
wrote for Killing Eve. She wrote Crashing. She's done a lot of amazing things. You've probably seen her. She's gotten a lot of awards recently.
Mm-hmm.
But she's phenomenal. She's done amazing work. She's really funny. She's really smart, and I would love to learn more about her. And I think my
Love it.
last choice would be probably Issa Rae, actually,
Ooh, great one.
because let's tie it back to YouTube. Issa Rae started out on YouTube. We could bond over the YouTube, could
Mm-hmm.
ask her some questions, maybe get to know who her partner manager was at the time where she had her series. And I'm obsessed with everything she makes. I think she's just phenomenal, smart, talented, funny. So it would be an amazing dinner. Honestly, that would be a great dinner party.
No, facts. I mean, if you guys need a bartender, just let me know. I
Okay,
make a
I got
mean
you.
espresso martini, and that's all I got.
Okay.
um, so, with the pandemic, we've kind of had to hit a pause a bit. So, like, what have you been able to tap into during this time?
Yeah, well, I'll take it back to when you brought up my yoga before. I think that's been probably the thing that's kept me most sane during this pandemic. I actually started my yoga teacher training before the pandemic, and then I officially got certified during the pandemic. So it ended virtually. And then since that point, I've been for fun just doing online classes for friends and family. And it's given me a hobby outside of my work, outside of seeing the small people in my pod, and let my brain exercise, let my body exercise, give me like the space to be a little bit more present. And that has been a saving grace, I would say, throughout the pandemic.
That's dope. I have to
Yeah,
ask, like, what does it take to get certified, and how often are you doing these classes?
so it's a 200-hour yoga teacher certification through Yoga Alliance. So it's 200 hours of training. You take it normally in person, but through COVID, a lot of it's shifted online. And then you have to take a test at the end, pass the test, and then you get your certification. And I teach online. I used to teach online weekly. I'm figuring out a new schedule right now because everyone, with vaccines and with all this other stuff, people are trying to do more in-person workouts, and virtual is a little bit harder to get people. So stay tuned on that one because I'm not sure yet.
Somewhere in SoCal, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, that's dope. The final question is the question I always ask is like, what is a music lyric or a movie line that you live by?
Yes. So I will use a quote. Let me just make sure I get every word because it's a longer one.
Go ahead, go ahead,
Uh,
go
okay. So
ahead.
it's from the movie Garden State. Have you seen Garden State?
I have not, but I'll check it out though.
Yeah, it's like an old school indie film. If you ask people, a lot of people love this movie. It's a universally loved movie, and they've got a great soundtrack. It's great. But there's one quote in it that I think brings me so much joy. So I'm going to read it to you. Um, the quote is, "Do you know what I do when I feel completely unoriginal? I make a noise or I do something that no one has ever done before, and then I can feel unique again, even if it's only for a second." Which I love.
I
I
love
love that
that.
quote
I love that.
because it's often, I think personally, hard to feel unique and feel different and do something that makes you gives you energy, makes you feel special. And that quote's just like, it's so simple, but if you do something really small, you're the only person doing that really small thing in this entire world. That's a crazy thought. And it makes me smile. So I like that.
I love it. I love it. I value uniqueness and, stepping
Yeah,
outside your comfort zone, do something a little quirky here and there. So I
exactly.
love that. And that's one of the, actually, it's one of the most, usually the music lyric lines are from like a Jay-Z or like a Kanye or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you added some variety
I was
to
gonna
the mix
go,
in this.
I was gonna go Beyonce, a Beyonce quote or something, but I
I
was
can
like,
see it.
let me let me go a little deeper than that.
So I'm gonna check out the movie. You said Garden State, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
All right, I'm checking it out. I'm putting it in the queue.
Yes.
But with that being said, we have concluded the show. But if you have any parting words, Jess, anything to share with the people,
Mm,
here you are. The floor is yours.
the floor is mine. My parting words. I think I said it a bunch already today, but for me, I'm in a particularly nostalgic and grateful place right now with this being my last week at YouTube and kind of taking on a new adventure. I think I'm feeling very reflective. I'm feeling very lucky and just grateful to be surrounded by such amazing, smart, talented people in my life. And I think my parting words are look to those around you and make sure that what you're choosing in your life, who you're surrounding yourself with, are people that you trust and love and help foster your development and mentor you, and that you're providing that to them too. But really having the right people in your court is like, it's a blessing, and it's one that I'm so grateful for my time at YouTube. I'm excited to build that my future at Spotify, and I think that's what helps me get from day to day, from career to career, just having people that are incredible around me, making me better.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're in this reflective phase. It's
Yeah,
always good, especially I'm
I'm
in
in
that
my
same
feels.
process. You're in your feels like Drake. I see you.
Yeah.
No, I dig it. I'm kind of in that same phase right now. I head out to
Yeah.
Nike in about a month and a half, so trying to take this time
Nice.
to feed into my Drake feels. So
Yeah.
I'll come back to you with what I come with.
Please. Please.
With that being said, thank you so much, Jess, again for your time. We
Yeah.
look forward to seeing your successes over at Spotify.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun chatting. Thanks
All
for the
right.
time.
Yeah. Take care.
Okay. Bye.